Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into the multi-trillion-dollar question of the moment, AI. Is this a revolutionary gold rush that's going to change everything, or are we staring down the barrel of a dangerous bubble about to burst? Well, we're going to go straight to the sources to figure it out.
You've probably heard this quote before, but it feels more relevant than ever. The legendary investor Sir John Templeton once said, "The four most expensive words in investing are, 'This time is different.'" And yet, when you look at the hype around AI right now, it is absolutely electric. It feels like everyone, from Wall Street to Silicon Valley, is screaming from the rooftops that this time, it really is different.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? Is this a truly genuine revolution that justifies this insane gold rush? Or are we just watching a familiar story play out all over again, just with a new name? Let's get into the sources and see what they say. Okay, so to really get a handle on what's happening right now, we actually need to look backwards. Because the sources, well, they point to this kind of echo from our not-so-distant past, a moment that feels eerily similar, and it holds some pretty powerful warnings for us today. Remember the late 90s? The internet was absolutely the next big thing, and let's be clear, that part was true. But look at this timeline. You can see how that genuine excitement spiraled into just pure hype and overconfidence, creating one of the biggest bubbles in history. And when it burst in 2000, boom, the NASDAQ just plummeted, and more than half of all those dot-com companies, gone, wiped out. So yeah, it was a real revolution, but it was also a wave of completely irrational investment.
All right, now let's fast forward to today. The amount of money being poured into AI, well, it makes the dot-com era look like pocket change. We are in the middle of this unprecedented CapEx boom. And CapEx, that's just short for capital expenditure. Basically the money that companies are spending on real physical stuff like data centers and a whole lot of computer chips. And who's at the very center of this storm? It's the world's biggest tech companies, right? The so-called Magnificent Seven. You know who they are. They are locked in this all-out, high-stakes arms race to dominate the world of AI. And the amount they're spending is so huge, it's literally reshaping the entire global economy.
Okay, get ready for this number. $330 billion. That's not a typo. That is the combined planned spending on AI for just 1 year from companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Meta. Just 1 year.
Now, to try and wrap our heads around that number, let's put it in perspective. That $330 billion is more than the entire economic output, the GDP, of developed countries like Finland or Portugal. This isn't just a big investment. This is a bet the size of an entire country on the future of technology.
So, where is all this cash actually going? That's the big question. And maybe more importantly, is it creating real, lasting value, or is something else going on here?
Well, when you start to follow the money, some analysts are pointing to a pattern that's raising some pretty big red flags. They've even got a name for it, the AI money machine. And the idea here is that a lot of this cash might just be flowing in a circle, making revenues look bigger than they are, without creating much new value out in the real world.
So here's a simplified version of how it seems to work. Step 1. A giant like Microsoft invests billions into an AI startup, say OpenAI. Step 2. OpenAI then turns around and pays a huge chunk of that money right back to Microsoft to use their data centers. Okay then, Step 3. Microsoft takes that money and uses it to buy tons of chips from NVIDIA. And then, here's the kicker, Step 4. NVIDIA invests some of its profits back into AI startups, who then buy more of its chips. See the loop? At each step, someone gets to book revenue, which looks great on paper and can help push stock prices way up.
One analyst came up with this brilliant, simple analogy to explain it. It's like you pay a friend $1,000 to dig a hole. Then he pays you $1,000 to fill it back in. On paper, you both just made $1,000 in revenue. Now, it's not literally the same single dollar bill being passed around, of course, but you get the idea. It raises a really serious question. How much actual, real-world value is being created in this cycle?
So you've got all this investment, all this revenue flying around inside this tech ecosystem, but the results out in the real world, well, they tell a very different story. A recent study from MIT found that a staggering 95%, 95 of business projects trying to use generative AI are failing to see any meaningful growth in their own revenue. That's a huge disconnect.
And this isn't just an AI thing either. Check out this chart. It shows decades of market data, and it reveals this incredibly powerful pattern. Companies that go on these massive spending sprees, the ones with super high capex, they have historically and pretty consistently underperformed their more careful, conservative competitors. The data's pretty clear on this one.
Okay, so forget the financials for a second. Beyond the money go round and the kind of lackluster results, there's a much more fundamental problem looming on the horizon. The very fuel that powers these incredible AI models might actually be running out.
Experts are calling it the data wall, and here's a good way to think about it. Imagine the entire internet is a giant library, containing basically all of human knowledge. For years, AI has gotten smarter and smarter by just reading every single book on every single shelf. But here's the problem. That library, as big as it is finite, and some top researchers are warning that we're getting dangerously close to reading the very last page.
So, what does that mean? Is this it? The end of the road for rapid AI improvement? Well, the experts are really divided on this. On one side, you have people saying, yep, without fresh, high-quality human data, progress is going to hit a wall and stall out. But on the other side, you've got optimists who believe that, we'll figure it out, that new techniques will make AI more efficient, or we'll find new sources of data, and we'll break right through this wall.
So, okay, we've got circular money, underwhelming results, a potential data wall, a lot of uncertainty. So how can we possibly make sense of all this? Well, the sources suggest there's a really powerful way to look at it, a historical framework called the capital cycle.
And this framework, it's not new. It applies perfectly to past tech booms, whether you're talking about railroads in the 1800s or fiber optics in the 90s. And the pattern is always the same. First, a new technology gets everyone excited, and there's a massive wave of investment to build out the infrastructure. But then, fierce competition leads to way too much supply, prices collapse, and a lot of those initial builders, they go bankrupt. And here is the absolute key takeaway. The real long-term value isn't captured by the companies that built the stuff, but by the companies that figured out how to creatively use all that new infrastructure.
And if you look at this chart, wow, it shows the exact same pattern is playing out right now, today, in AI. You can see how the investment has shifted massively towards AI infrastructure. The chips, the data centers, the cloud companies. So this tells us we need to be really smart about this and make a clear distinction between the companies building the infrastructure and the ones that are adopting it.
And why is this distinction so critical? Well, it all comes down to what people are willing to pay. Right now, investors are paying this enormous 137% premium for the infrastructure companies. Think of them as the ones selling the shovels in the gold rush. Meanwhile, the early adopters, the companies who are actually using AI to build new things, they're valued at a much, much more reasonable 13% premium.
And that right there really gets to the heart of this whole thing. History teaches us a pretty tough lesson. A new technology can create trillions of dollars in value for the world. But that value, it doesn't always end up in the pockets of the companies that spent billions building the foundation.
So that's where we're left. There's really no doubt that AI is going to be transformative. It's going to change the world. But the real question, the one the sources leave us with, is who's actually going to profit from it? Will it be the builders, the ones spending hundreds of billions on the infrastructure? Or will it be the users, the ones who come along and creatively build the future on top of it?